Hi, everybody. I'm Jerry Fine, Executive Director of Innovate BU, and I'm proud and happy to welcome you to the 4th annual Cannabis Startup Competition, sponsored by Innovate BU and hosted by Green Lion Partners. You can see tonight's agenda up on here. After I give you a brief introduction about Innovate BU, I'm going to turn it over to our hosts, who will introduce the judges to you, who will you'll then hear from our partners. You'll then hear from our finalists. While the judges are debating who the winner of the competition is, you'll hear from some of our previous winners and some policy organizations in the marijuana industry throughout Massachusetts. And then we should announce the winners by about 7:30. Before I turn it over to our hosts for this evening, let me just give you a word about Innovate BU. Fundamentally, those of you who aren't familiar with Innovate BU should know that our job at Innovate BU is to give all of our students and alumni the opportunity to leverage their ideas and turn them into impact that influences their careers and the communities in which they live. We're proud of the fact that Innovate BU and the Build Lab, the IDG Capital Student Innovation Center, recently received the 2020 Outstanding Emerging Entrepreneurship Center Award from the GCEC, the Global Consortium of Entrepreneurship Centers. On the next slide, you can see some of the aspects or some of the components of Innovate at BU across our campus. In addition to the Build Lab, our home that you see on the right side of this page, you should also be aware that we have many other opportunities for our students and alumni on campus, including EPIC, our 15,000 square foot makerspace on campus and adjacent to the Build Lab, a variety of startup and technology law clinics available to our students, specialized program for our computer science and engineering innovators, and finally, a variety of other programs such as sustainability seed grants, or arts grants, all designed to encourage our students to innovate. On the next slide, we give you just a little bit more insight into what we do. I won't belabor them other than to say at the core of our activity is teaching students the innovation skills and entrepreneurial mindset to be successful in the world that they are entering. We do that by engaging and inspiring students, by helping them with their leadership skills, by supporting their learning through competitions and challenges, and by establishing relationships with outside strategic entities, such as Green Lion Partners, that benefit our students. We keep moving. You can see a few of the student programs that are actively ongoing in the Build Lab and at Innovate BU, despite the global pandemic. All of these offerings are currently virtual and continue to go at the same pace we've been going at even before the pandemic. I point out only a couple of things for those of you who are budding entrepreneurs in the BU community. Soon we'll be starting our new venture competition, and we look forward to that. You can also see a variety of other activities that will be offering to you in the spring semester, and we hope that you join them. Now, without further ado, let me introduce the hosts for the evening, Jeff Zucker and Mike Bologna from Green Lion Partners. They've been great partners at BU, and I'm proud to introduce them now.
Thanks, Jerry. Really appreciate it. I'm Jeffrey Zucker, president and co-founder of Green Lion Partners. This is my business partner and fellow BU alum, Mike Bologna. We're going to tell you a little bit more about Green Lion after the presentations. In the meantime, though, let's meet our judges. We've got Jamie Lewis, Kim Napoli, and Peter Bleileben. Jamie, if you could just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, and Kim and then Peter can go next.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm so happy to be here, even though it's virtual. I'm excited to be a judge again. My name is Jamie Lewis. I'm the managing partner of Coldwater Consulting. I am an entrepreneur in the industry as well as an owner operator myself. And I've been an owner operator in the industry for over 15 years. So I have a bit of experience, but most importantly, I'm excited to hear what new ideas we're going to be using in the industry. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Kim, if you could go next.
I was on mute. It's probably a good thing because I started talking before you introduced me. This is in 2020 fashion. We're all here on Zoom, and it's great that you guys are able to pull this together. So thank you for having me again. This is my 4th year judging this really super awesome competition. It's my favorite competition ever, and I'm just really excited to be here again. I am the Senior Director of Corporate Social Responsibility for Parallel, which is the parent company to New England Treatment Access, where I was the Director of Diversity Programs. I, as you can see, have worked with Vicente Cederberg. I'm currently a Cannabis Advisory Board member, have been since 2017 when it was established. I was the Director of Outreach for the campaign to legalize, and since 2004, I've been involved with the Hempist, and I founded the Hempist in Harvard Square, which we actually just closed this past March, 16 years after we opened, almost to the day. So I come to cannabis by way of hemp and also by way of ancillary products. And I think that these kinds of supports for the cannabis industry are essential. They're a great way for folks to get involved without actually touching the plant, but providing much needed services to those who do, and really to make opportunity available to all and for to ease entry into the industry. So I'm super excited, just like Jamie, to see what our contestants have to offer today. And thanks again for having me.
Thanks, Kim. Peter, you're up next.
Hi, everybody. Well, I'm also excited to be here. I think I'm also here for the 4th time. And I'm a little bit different than the other judges. I have essentially no experience in the cannabis industry. I come in from a general investing world and business strategist world. So you hear from me more kind of general business questions than specific cannabis related questions. So good luck to everybody, and it will be fun to listen to the pitches.
Thank you very much to all 3 of our amazing judges. As they mentioned, we've been fortunate to have them with us pretty much from the beginning, and they add such an amazing element with their experience. So we really appreciate you guys being here with us again. Now we'd like to transition into the presentations, and the first company to present will be Bud Risk, presented by Jim Boynton, who is a Questrom 2007 graduate. Jim, if you'd like to share your screen, and please begin. Thank you.
Good evening, judges. As many of you know, the cannabis industry operates in a highly regulated and risk-prone ecosystem. New businesses face high barriers to entry, and existing companies struggle to fulfill orders and manage risk. Navigating the insurance roadmap is one of the many compulsory challenges to getting into operation. One of the biggest issues the cannabis industry is dealing with insurance is that there's very limited insurance companies that specialize in cannabis, and there's very few experienced professionals who understand how to help clients through the insurance roadmap. There's also very little actuarial data explaining losses, and that inflates the cost of insurance. We understand at Bud Risk risks and regulations for this industry. We're trusted advisors, and we help our clients through a roadmap to placing insurance. My partner and I came together a few years ago. Art Catapang comes with over 25 years of specialty underwriting experience. He's developed nationwide programs for specialty industries. And myself, since I graduated in 2007 from Boston University, have worked both locally and nationwide with companies to place insurance and help them with risk management. Art and I created an innovative solution to helping cannabis businesses. By developing strategic partnerships with other ancillary companies, we're able to both give and receive referrals to marijuana establishments. And these strategic partners are placed throughout the sector. As those businesses get into operation, they have various insurance needs. we help draw out that insurance roadmap and connect them with specialty underwriting relationships. We've coupled this with an innovative inbound marketing approach. We've developed a network of strategic partners, all the way from product manufacturing to law firms, staffing agencies, and venture capital companies. These strategic partners often find that their clients are challenged by finding the right insurance solutions to advance to the next step. As we receive these inbound referrals, inbound leads, digital leads, we begin to gather information. This helps us to determine the risk of that profile, as well as understand the company's timeline for getting into business. These companies are dealing with construction build-outs, software implementation, permitting, legal issues, and eventually staffing. Our strategic partners are there for us as we need to refer them, and we're there for them as their clients need insurance product. Once we place the insurance product, we go into a risk monitoring phase, and this is essentially the client service. So when our clients need things like crop insurance, we're able to educate them and advise them the most competitive solutions, as well as the lowest cost solutions. If it's a build out, they might be dealing with various contractors and a need for equipment breakdown. And in this uniquely capitalized industry, we're also able to help source professional liability and directors and officers liability to protect the investors. We have unique underwriting relationships. We've developed relationships with every cannabis underwriter nationwide. And so be it a laboratory, a retailer, manufacturer, transportation company, or cultivator, we have the insurance solutions and we're ready to help these clients. We also have an inbound marketing approach. We use aggregators like Hootsuite and MailChimp to develop educational content. We also are on platforms industry to the industry itself. It's Leafly and LeafWire. And we go to various conventions like NECANN, CannaCon. We're now even developing podcasts through Canna Media. We have an expansion plan. Right now, we're licensed in 9 states. And just this week, we got licensed in Colorado. We're quickly moving with an East Coast to West Coast strategy, eliminating saturated competition and allowing us to develop strategic partners in the states that we look to expand to next. We'll soon be in states like California and Washington. And through the support of perhaps this program, we'll be in every state that's approved for recreational consumption. Throughout this journey, we've created an experiential learning program. We're both a minority-owned business, as well as have several clients who are social equity holders of marijuana establishments. We've matriculated over 30 folks from neighborhoods that have been disproportionately affected by the illegality of this industry at one point in time. And through providing skills and educational resource to these folks, we've brought them into the insurance industry and are quickly helping to legitimize the industry as we go forward. This returns value to these neighborhoods and also helps with our social equity initiative. Thank you for taking the time to hear about us. We look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. We really appreciate you presenting Bud Risk. At this time, if the judges would like to unmute, and feel free to begin the question and answer part.
Hi, just for clarification, are you actually an insurance company or are you an advising consulting firm to small startup growers and other parties in the industry?
We're an insurance brokerage. And so that means that we are the retailers of the insurance industry. We work directly with the leaf-touching businesses, as well as ancillary businesses. And we're essentially consultants, connecting these folks with the insurance products and insurance companies, and we're also a necessary component in that these companies do not deal directly with the clients. They require intermediary agencies such as ourselves. And as I've mentioned, there are very, very few insurance industries that have this specialty.
So do you actually create insurance products, or are you dependent on what the larger insurance companies make available to you?
Well, in turn, we consult with the underwriters who are essentially the engineers of the insurance product. And so we advise them on what the client needs are. And we're a conduit. So we create a conversation between sort of the boots on the ground and the engineers who are creating the product. So if there is a gap, if there's an insurance need that can't be met, we're helping to educate the underwriters and insurance companies as to what products they need to develop to meet those needs. As an example,
let's not make it too long because there are other
Okay.
judges too.
Understood.
So thank you for your answer. I got what I needed. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Hey guys, I would love to know, and hi Jim, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are
I
you?
would love, pretty good. I would love to know, who is your ideal client? I know you mentioned adult use, you mentioned across the country, plant touching and ancillary, but for your specific purposes, where is your big money maker?
Well, we've been able to help the most, and I would say is also a money maker for us, is a fully vertically integrated business. And so we have a few of those clients, and we have locally, both as well as nationwide. And those profiles tend to be the most complex, and so our specialty is appreciated most with those profiles.
Okay, and then my next question, thank you for that, is how do your clients know? Now I know that you guys you've worked in this industry, you've done this, and that gives you a certain level, at least I'm assuming gives you a certain level of expertise over other insurance agents that they wouldn't necessarily have. So that sort of tunes you into the specific types of risks that are more natural for a cannabis company. How do your clients know they're getting the best deal with you versus seeking out some other insurance company?
Sure. Well, we're independent. And so what that means is that we're able to source solutions from different competitors in the insurance industry. So we have access to every insurance program nationwide. And when we're working with one of these clients, we're sourcing proposals and negotiating proposals with various resources. So it's not just a direct resource to one insurance company or solution. And by doing that, we represent the client and have an objective approach to the market. We're able to essentially negotiate rates down on behalf of our clients by working one company over the other.
Okay, thank you.
Hi guys, just a quick question here. You did briefly discuss your sort of expansion plan for states. If you could speak a little bit about your marketing plan and what that looks like. I know you mentioned sort of the top leaf link and those sorts of things in terms of it, but the messaging, what's going to drive it, and mainly too, spinning off of Kim's question, what's going to make someone like myself utilize you guys instead of going directly to the source? Just for an example, using Cannabis as an example, I have a strong relationship with them. Just they've been around in the industry for a while. They're pretty well connected. What's going to put you in front of them for the owner operators to get to? So that marketing plan, if you could just speak a little bit about that.
Sure. We actually represent Cannabis and other of their competitors, and we work with them to market to the industry. But I think more unique to our approach is the strategic partnership approach, in which we're creating a team of trusted advisors, and we've created that team already with other compulsory services, meaning that we link up with companies like law firms who are at the forefront of this industry, helping businesses to get into operation, and they rely on us for an insurance solution, and in turn we rely on them, for instance, for a legal solution. So being a compulsory service and being at the forefront with strategic partners is actually more core to our marketing plan than, for instance, digital media, which we know to be a long-term strategy, but one that is supported by the engagement of our strategic partners.
Thanks, Jim. Oh, sorry, Jamie, we're heading on to the next presentation here. Jim, great work, and to your team, Art and Harrison, thank you guys. And next up, we've got Christopher Donaldson, a Questrom 22 MBA candidate with eRoth.
Everyone.
I think, Jim, if you could end your screen share, and then Chris, you can start yours.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Christopher Donaldson, and I am the founder of eRoth. We're a machine learning company that builds quality control and prediction models for the cannabis industry. eRoth gives businesses the power to grow cannabis products while reducing waste and saving time and money. Cannabis businesses need better methods to improve consistency and predictability. The industry is fragmented, and licensed labs often run tests after products have been produced. Add that to the challenge of collecting meaningful data, and you're left with a recipe for poor quality, revenue loss, and waste. At eRoth, we provide on-demand solutions with our custom calibration models for production, for producers, and testing labs. Our data tools interface with most testing hardware through all stages of the cannabis life cycle for real-time results. We identify problems before they turn into headaches and build better communication and data bridges between growers and labs. All of this is possible thanks to the power of AI and machine learning. Notice that testing is the center of the cannabis supply chain, creating a wall between cultivation, extraction, and distribution retail. In Massachusetts and other states, all products must pass regulated QC testing before they are distributed and sold. And cannabis producers are at the mercy of third-party labs that employ their own in-house methods, even in states with clear testing guidelines. What we do is pretty simple, really. Data goes in, real-time results come out. First, we collect the data, then feed it into the eRoth platform. Next, we analyze the data to build custom calibration models to predict optimal outcomes unique to each client. Here you can see that we're accessible on any device. Where does the data come from? Spectral is a non-destructive method to test quality and potency, and it's a solid alternative to chemical testing methods. It's basically a scan and read process. Chromatography is a lab technique that breaks down a sample into individual parts. It's one of the most popular techniques to test for solvents, pesticides, and trace heavy metals. Then there's machine vision. Our platform can interface with phenotyping hardware, which is crucial for identifying genotype traits, and grading sorting, which can sort good plants from the bad ones, while predicting which ones will stay stable for longer. eRoth stands out in two important ways. We increase the odds for high quality products, and we increase the odds for regulatory compliance. This is the core of our business. If a grower discovers mold, for example, eRoth will tell them what to do about it and how to prevent it from happening again. Our user-friendly dashboard displays easy to understand measurements for non-expert users, highlighting trends and connections between data sets, and accurately analyzing quality and potency before, during, and after production. We're a subscription as a service model with two types of licenses, Pro and Basic. Pro is a good option for large or established businesses with their own equipment, while Basic is a better fit for labs and boutique growers. Both options provide on-site and remote consultations, and the Pro option comes with a dedicated team member and data discovery add-ons. The global testing market was valued at $1.7 billion in 2019, and that's expected to grow to $4.8 billion by 2027. The US market is expected to jump to $1.2 billion by 2026, dominated by chromatography and spectral, with the former maintaining 63% market share. However, like any new market, it has its issues. Licensed dispensaries are undersupplied and struggling to meet demand due to restricted supply chain and limited number of cultivators producing high quality products. There's also severe demand for testing. In Massachusetts, only 3 independent labs do medicinal testing, and it can take days to weeks to complete full tests. eGrowth can help decrease backlogs by optimizing yields so less junk gets tested. In California and Colorado, as an example, 15 to 20% of the cannabis products fail QC lab testing. We're likely to see a testing platform war in the future as testing equipment providers invest in data collection and new technology. But the analytics platform industry for cannabis is not quite there yet. eGrowth is in a position to gain foothold in this space. There are several well-known players in the equipment market, including Thermo Fisher Scientific, but no one yet has conquered the analytics platform market for cannabis. This presents us with a new opportunity, and eGrowth is ready to capitalize on the rising need to improve efficiency and cannabis intelligence. Many types of hardware and systems can collect and analyze data, but no single platform makes it easy for these systems to talk to each other. eGrowth does. We interface with most precision agriculture hardware, and we build tools to simplify communications between growers, machines, and labs. Now let me introduce you to our team. I'm a business executive with over 10 years of digital innovation experience. I'm also a cannabis investor, and with 2 other partners, we launched a pre-roll and flower brand in Los Angeles called Better. Our slogan is "Save us from corporate weed." My chief technology officer is Guvench Wazal. He's a technologist and the lead faculty member of IDIZ. That's a research and development platform at UCLA. His current research, which is supported by Autodesk, Microsoft, and Oculus, focuses on AI, machine learning, and machine vision to create reactive experiences. In other words, he builds really cool stuff. We round out the team with 2 of my Questrom MBA cohorts, Qingfeng Te and Paris Rana. Qingfeng oversees finance, risk, and investor relations, and is a commodities trader who has traveled to every corner of the globe. Paris is a project manager for Habitat for Humanity, and he will oversee operations management, product development, and distribution. At eGrowth, we are committed to environmental justice.
Unfortunately, you're over time, so we're going to have to skip over this. If you actually just tell us quickly about social impact, but then we'll go straight into the judges.
Yeah, so we hope to decrease waste. That's a big issue in the industry, and we're doing that with safety, quality, consistency. And my one big point is the key to reducing waste is to take as many precautions as possible, as early as possible.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation, Christopher. And judges, feel free to start your questions.
Hi, guys. You hit it right on the head. This is a huge issue, specifically in the state of Massachusetts currently right now. There's a major backlog going on. I'm curious to hear about your accuracy rate, or if you've done any testing to compare where your light measurements fall with the traditional testing that we do on cannabis currently.
Yeah, so our big next step is establishing a data library. So that's kind of what we're hitting for Q1 of 2021. And at that point, we'll start the modeling and the prototype testing. So that's where we are at this stage.
And what other industries currently utilize this from the health and safety standpoint specifically?
Yeah, so this is in precision agriculture. So, you know, agriculture as a whole are using different types of spectral chromatography. You have multi-sensor systems. Guvench, who is my business partner on this project, he works quite a bit with machine vision and sensoring. He builds really large-scale projects and robots. So that's a big component of the software, but the big play is in agriculture as a whole.
Awesome. Sorry, just one last question. Is there anything that you know of that you specifically would have issues for testing for?
I'm sorry, can you ask me that again?
Yeah, sorry. Is there anything that you specifically couldn't test for?
We'll do all the standard testing. So potency and quality are 2 biggest ones. And there's issues on both sides, but we're aiming to do both of those things. And then all the other things like trace metals, pesticides, et cetera, that's really part of a standard regulatory testing. And that's pretty much across the US and globally, really, but for every state in the US.
Just as a side note, you that to change the legislation or the regulations as they currently stand. That's the other lift, but it looks like you're in the right direction. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So piggybacking off what Jamie just mentioned about the regulations, are you guys familiar with the mass regs related to testing and pesticides specifically?
I am. So I'm based in Los Angeles, so that would be the market that I'm looking at first, just because I'm aware of it. And I also have a pre-roll brand that's coming out. So I work with the manufacturer that's already doing it. So they've been a really good sounding board for any questions around the testing side.
So my question is, you mentioned that the products, like if there's mold, it'll tell you, hey, you've got mold and here's what to do about it. Now in mass, you can't use anything, you can only use inorganic or organic pesticides, right? It says no, it's like a very, very broad rule about what you can and can't do. I'm interested in how the technology would grapple with that. How does it give instruction on what to do? Essentially, it's like you can use neem oil and, you know, and that's it. So what does your product, how does your product help me through that?
Yeah, so we really want to start before you get to the product, before you take that flower into the lab to be tested for regulation. So we want to use really all of that technologies out there within precision agriculture. And then with chromatography and spectral, because those are kind of the two biggest types of testing at this point. It's using that entire system. So one of the components would be grading and sorting. So that uses images. You could take a photo on your iPhone, put it into that system, and it can kind of identify, maybe it's an issue now before it spreads to other plants. It might identify something really at a very, like a seedling level before you produce the product. And, you know, that's kind of been the big issue here in California. Again, 20% of product is discarded or doesn't pass QC testing. So we're hoping to help people before they even get to that stage.
So it's a good way of describing your product, like a, excuse me, this is my daughter, a technological plant pathologist. Would that make sense?
I mean,
like,
it's a prediction model.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Got it, thank you.
To build the best prediction model that we possibly can.
Okay.
So are you gonna create your own labs, or are you gonna sell your platform to existing labs?
We would sell our platform to existing labs. So the way with the hardware, I think the hardware is kind of the biggest issue for new growers, especially. It's expensive. There are a couple of spectral analysis machines that are portable now. Ideally, I would like to work directly with growers with those machines because spectral is non-invasive, it doesn't damage the product, and they can do their own testing through the growth period on site before they even take it into the lab. So when it comes to the lab, we'd be making the laboratories more efficient. We could provide them with better information to give back to their customers. And in a way, I would hope that there would be some sort of network effect. You know, if you have a lab that's using this technology, it makes them a better lab at the end of the day. And hopefully that's going to attract them with new customers too.
Have you planned anything on pricing models yet?
Yeah, so when you're looking at large scale producers, it's expensive. You're looking at probably a couple thousand for an annual license. And it really depends on how many custom calibration models we create. But with the Pro licensing box, you're looking at several calibration models per year. There will be a monthly fee on top of that, and that provides you with a team member, a sounding board, provides you with additional data discovery tools. And then for the basic, I would be inclined to probably start out giving it away for free to laboratories as a way of us getting their data too, and just working with them directly since they're going to be ultimately doing the testing.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christopher. Thank you, judges. Next up, we've got Matthew Farmer presenting Greenshare. He's a 2015 graduate of the engineering school.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Matthew Farmer. I'm here with Yassine El Yousfi and William Bell. and we're here today to talk to you about GreenShare. So, the problem in the cannabis industry is that there's high barriers of entry to overcome, and this creates a number of different issues. The first issue being that small farms, which have historically been the background or the backbone of the cannabis industry, are getting priced out because as the startup and running costs are increasing, they're not able to keep up. Furthermore, the high startup costs run counter to the cannabis industry's goal of creating social equity. It prices a large swath of the population out of being able to enter into the industry, especially in marginalized communities. And speaking of marginalized communities, a lot of people are not aware of the opportunities because the community outreach is not always there. So for solutions, we looked at analogs within other industries for inspiration. And one industry we looked to is the beer industry. And this is because they have a similar set of issues. There are high startup and running costs. There are heavy regulations. There's also a very large licensing process. So with that, we looked to two solutions within the beer industry, contract brewing and alternating partnerships. And we took a little inspiration from those and applied it to the cannabis industry. So meet GreenShare. And we're a full suite of services through the cannabis product lifecycle. Today, we're going to focus on our cultivation products, specifically the first three portions of it. But we've also looked at opportunities in the manufacturing and hobby industries, and we also expect to go into these areas as well. So how does it work? So as a grower, the first step for GreenShare is to walk the grower through the licensure process step by step. Next, we work with our partners to educate and train our growers to make sure that they're aware of everything that it takes to run a successful cultivation business. On the landowner side, we again walk them through regulations step by step. We also ask them to put forth some investment in their build out, and we work with contractors to make sure that they're set on their end. Once everything is done, both the grower and the landowner come to an agreement. From there, we provide the additional services necessary for the grower to have a successful cultivation business, including the equipment, management, and auxiliary services. Then payout. So how does everyone get paid? So our business model is a two-sided marketplace for growers and landowners. For the landowners, again, we ask them for an initial investment, but with that, they're able to charge substantially higher per square foot than they could with a normal warehouse. On the grower ends, of course, they're making their money from the yield and the fact that we've also invested in their ability to reduce their crops. Now, from that, GreenShare takes a 2.5% fee from both the grower and the landowner's profits. What makes us unique? So we're going after an untapped and underrepresented customer base of people who either didn't have the funds or didn't have the know-how or didn't realize that they could enter into the cannabis industry. We're also leveraging underutilized space. Now, this is either space that is not already set up for cannabis cultivation or is but does not have a current tenant. We're giving them the opportunity to sublease some or all of that property for that goal. Finally, the most important piece is our partnership with industry leaders on social equity. The fact that we're going after people in marginalized communities and empowering them to enter into the cannabis industry and be the master of their own destiny is very powerful, and it helps us really get towards the goal of the cannabis industry of creating social equity. So here are some of our partners, both current and projected future partners that we'd like to work with. And one that I'd like to point out is Crystal Gardens. So going back to speaking on how we want to educate and train our growers, Crystal Gardens is a Boston-based company owned by Boston graduates from Northeastern University who are Boston natives from marginalized communities. And their business is about empowering and educating people on how to cultivate cannabis. So the power of GreenShare is not just in empowering the growers, but also empowering the companies around the cannabis industry and helping them also find new clients and find new ways to make business. For timelines, we want to spend a majority of 2021 really working on our partner and client acquisition, going through legal review, working on those government partnerships, and then finally also working on our app development. From there, we're going to spend the latter portion of 2021 and into the early portion of 2022 focus on designing and executing on our pilot for the cultivation product. And we expect to launch our cultivation product in 2022. Once that's completed, the latter half of 2022 is devoted to working on our manufacturing product, again, going through our partnerships and legal review. And for the first half of 2023, we'll pilot our manufacturing product. And our goal is to launch our manufacturing product by Q3 of 2023. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't speak about the team. We're a bunch of Boston University graduates, each with a different area of focus and area of expertise, from product management to software engineering to social equity. We each bring a different piece of the puzzle to the table, and together we're able to create a really powerful product because we're not only focused on profits, but also on the human aspect and how that relates to empowering the user. With that being said, I'd like to thank you guys. Thank you for taking some time to listen to our GreenShare presentation.
Matthew, thank you so much. Judges, take it away.
I have a question. Thank you, gentlemen. I love the concept, mainly because it's really hard to find partnerships, especially for those that we're trying to really help out in the industry. You mentioned a little bit about the client acquisition piece. I'm just curious, and specifically focusing on the state of Massachusetts, is the idea to acquire the real estate partnerships by these landowners coming to you with pre-approved locations, or are you, cleaning these locations, meaning the zoning bylaws and the local ordinances in this state specifically, as well as other states, can be quite difficult to get through. So I'm just wondering what sort of that process looks like in terms of that client acquisition for the land piece.
Right. So again, and we are going to go state by state on this because every state has a very unique set of laws, at least for right now, to go through. But the goal is there are different ways for us to go about it. So, for example, our first pilot would potentially be with a location like American or something like that, where it's already set up and there may be available land or available room for a few growers to sublease out that property. The ultimate goal for GreenShare is to, similar to Airbnb, where people have their home and they see an opportunity to make money on the side, is to allow people to, our landowners, to invest in whatever is necessary to get that land up to snuff for cannabis cultivation, and then sublease that land out. We're focusing in Massachusetts on indoor, just because, the climate and everything like that. But if we go to an area like California, for example, we can focus more on outdoor land. And so there's less that we have to worry about as far as the build out and the initial investment. So yes, we are looking at different ways.
And just one other question too, before I let the other judges jump in. What does your expansion process look like for the company? You mentioned Massachusetts. Will you be primarily focused here to begin with, or in general, what other states do you plan to move forward with?
Right. So Massachusetts is where we're going to start, just because we're most familiar with the market and also the regulations there. But there are other states we're looking in. California and Oklahoma are two that we're very interested in as well. It's really also dependent on how things move legally within the country on a whole and within different states. But yes, we are looking to expand overall.
Awesome. New states may be of interest to you guys too, just with a large market. Just a thought.
So I wondered if you could walk me through the pricing structure on how this works. I'm wondering, maybe I don't understand it, but why would a landowner or retail or store owner, commercial business owner, or commercial property owner rather, pay $135,000 to lease that property?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. So one thing about that, if you look online at warehouses in Massachusetts, right now the going rate per square foot is somewhere between $70 and $2 per square foot. Once they've gone through the process of building out and everything like that, they can charge through GreenShare 10 to 20 and sometimes even more per square foot. And it'll still work out for every party involved. So even though we're asking them to put up that initial investment up front, they can charge substantially more per square foot, and that's what'll make the difference for them.
And just to kind of supplement that answer as well, we also, just with our commitment to social equity, there's a kind of restorative justice aspect for those landowners who kind of see an opportunity to possibly, empower some local growers while still making their own type of, profit on the side. And we want to necessarily make that relationship possible.
My other question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Does the property owner have any additional responsibilities beyond providing the space? I mean, who pays for the electricity? Who pets the little plants and fertilizes them and all those other nice little things that you need to do?
Right. That's another good question. So the landowner is pretty hands-off once they've done the build out. Whatever electricity is used above what the landowner currently uses would be billed to the grower. This is basically the grower utilizing utilities and everything like that. So anything that the grower is utilizing, they're going to have to pay for. Our goal is really to get them in the door and to lower that initial cost, because the initial cost is really one of the largest hits that anyone takes when getting into the cannabis industry.
All right, thank you.
One more question I have is just thinking about, again, back to the pricing structure. You mentioned it was 2.5% of profits. So you're expecting to wait until the companies are profitable to then take 2%? And is it a one-time 2.5% rather, or is it an ongoing 2.5% of profits from, I imagine, the retail or the cultivator, because I don't necessarily understand, unless you're saying that it's also 2.5% of the lease fee.
Right. So again, we're giving the landowners an opportunity here because they can make substantially more per square foot. So we're asking them to pay a small fee for that. It's sort of like just a connector's fee. You also have to think that there's opportunity for more than one grower to be at one location as well. So because of that opportunity, we think that it is fair that a small 2.5% fee from the landowner is feasible. And that would be from the profits from the per square footage that is being leased out. On the grower's end, especially since right now we're looking at indoors, there's more opportunities to cultivate versus being outdoors where it might be more dictated by the weather and the season and stuff like that. So yes, it would be on the grower's end, it would be more of a perhaps quarterly or per harvest situation. But overall, it would be based off of the total amount of that harvest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, judges, and thank you, Matt. We've hit our time for that. We really appreciate the presentation and the excellent questions as always. I'd like to now introduce our final presentation, which will be Climate Smart Cannabis, brought to us by Sarah Beth Buckley, who is a current PhD candidate at BU. Sarah Beth, please feel free to share your screen.
Thank you very much. Is that working?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right. Yes. So thank you for the introduction. So I'll be presenting for, our company is Climate Smart Cannabis, and our product is we want to make an app that will help growers to decrease their energy use by connecting to the grid and understanding when it's cheaper and cleaner to help with sustainability issues. All of you have probably seen an image like this of just a grow site that's just emitting lots and lots of energy. So this is obviously bad for the business, but it's also bad for the planet and the climate, especially in the context of climate change. And so we want to try and help this by giving growers the ability to really take this into their own hands. And so just kind of look at the problem. So this is just showing, typical energy use for a cannabis grow site in comparison to a variety of other buildings. You can see it's much, much higher. On top of a lot of other things, they project that 1% of energy in the US is used by cannabis growers, and that's just in 2018. Even more states have come online since then. And states are aware of this. So we're in Massachusetts. So for example, the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources has already stated that they know that this is an issue, and if with the growth of the cannabis industry, that could impact their, whether or not they're able to meet their climate goals. So that's the problem. And we want to help address this and work with growers by working with this open source data set for data sets like this, like the ISO New England data set, which is able to look at when utilities are charging more for their electricity, so usually during peak times, and also they're able to tell what the sources of that energy are. So more of them fossil fuels or renewable energy, and which also during peak times, it's more often fossil fuels when they have to bring on inefficient power plants. And so we want to help them try to avoid this. And the difference is expected between this is expected only to increase as more renewable energy comes online. So there are actually some apps that are able to look at this. So, for example, Watt Time and Sense, and we've actually worked directly with these two companies, but they're particularly focused on humans. Nothing addresses plants. And so, but for humans, for example, some of these are able to maybe they'll turn off your heat when nobody's in the house, or they'll be able to actually detect, like for Sense, they're able to detect which devices are on and how much energy are they using. And then, there are apps that are automatically able to see which devices are flexible in their energy use, and can they only turn them on when the grid is using less carbon intensive. And so this is great for users because they get to, for one, save money, but also it's more in line with their values in terms of helping to contribute to addressing issues like climate change and be more sustainable. But it also really allows for them to have control over their energy use. And so things like this are really only becoming more appealing. So this is just showing the amount of people who are willing to pay for environmentally responsible products, and that's increasing over time. And this is only since 2015, so it has already increased and is expected to increase. And it's the same with smart devices. People are more interested in using smart devices. So what we want to do is now apply this to plants, because plants have very different needs. For example, they don't really care if their cell phone is charged by 8 a.m. so they can go to work, but they have different light needs. So they have flexibility in, like, for example, when they can accept light, or when they can, or how much they can accept at different times. And so we want, knowing about this, we want to incorporate this into our app. So we want to look more on the demand side for this. And so we want to have our app first be able to speak to the forecast and data sets like ISO New England, and tell when the price and how clean the grid is. And then when it's very dirty and expensive, be able to turn off the systems, but then still optimize for growth while the grid is both less expensive and cleaner. And so then the great thing about this is, since an automated system will be able to also interface with trying to optimize for energy for heat and AC, and also for input of CO2, and we also want to work for nutrients and water application. So then hopefully this will help growers be able to both save money and also help be more sustainable. And so for our team, this is a picture of myself and my partner, Nathan Phillips, who's a professor and an expert of plant physiology. And so we want to be able to take this energy data, and we want to be able to translate it to plants. We're both plant scientists. And so we have an idea of what plants actually need, and be able to make those kinds of algorithms. And so this is just a picture of a project where we're connecting plants to indoor air in buildings. So we actually are already working on the interface between plants and infrastructure. And so our next steps for this are, we want to actually test our systems. We want to grow cannabis and work with growers as well. Because we also would like to make sure that we're getting some of the growers' input into into our device and our app. And then the next step is also to to further our development of the app. So we want to increase our tech team. So we're hoping to stay within the BU community for this too. So if anyone knows anyone interested, please let us know. And we also, on the business side, we hope, just thinking about our own business, we want to try and be sustainable ourselves. So thinking about the guidelines that for like Certified B Corporation, for example, but we also particularly want any users of our app to contribute 5% of their savings to the Minority Cannabis Business Association. So with that, I'll take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sarah Beth. We really appreciate that presentation on Climate Smart. Judges, if you'd please unmute and ask any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sarah Beth. As someone who's built out several facilities through many states, I can say that the environmental detriment we do is huge. I mean, in terms of this piece. I do fall in line with my brothers and sisters in California and am very skilled on the regulatory requirements that are there. I currently operate in Massachusetts. Are you aware of the Massachusetts requirements in terms of what we have to go through here?
Some of them, we're still learning about all of the requirements, but yeah.
In terms of your growth plan for this, I know that you're in very beginning stages, but what partnerships are you looking to acquire or work with? And specifically, just because you're not fully aware of it, maybe what your plan is to attack some of these regulatory requirements where you can sort of be a middleman between for owner operators to be able to utilize your service to help get the sort of requirements at the CCC level or in California with their commission in terms of what this piece looks like.
Yeah, that would definitely make sense to be a part of it. I think we want to definitely be able to connect people to that, but I think it would also probably more fall on the just allowing growers to be able to respond to them. I think we've at the moment the partners that we're thinking of working with are more on we know we've been working with Watt Time before, and we've been working with Sense, and so we're able to help develop the technology and provide more information for the growers. So I don't know if you're working as much on the regulatory side, but just definitely would take into consideration the differences in regulations in different places.
Awesome. And sticking with the grower side too, in terms of driving revenue, what does that look like for you guys?
In terms of what? Sorry?
Revenue, like in terms of working with the growers in the beginning stages and then your revenue plan for making money.
Yeah, the revenue plan would also, in the same way said, take some percentage of the savings would probably be where our revenue would come from as well.
And one last question, you're doing awesome. What other plants have you worked with outside of cannabis? And would this be for plants overall, or would it be just specific? Because you say plants, and for me, I only think cannabis, but you're on the different side of things where plants means different to you. So just curious, is it across a broad spectrum or just focused on cannabis?
Ideally, it would be other plants as well. I mean, I've personally worked with a variety of plants. I've worked with spinach and corn and a couple of other crops. And so that's most of my direct experiments have been on, say, in my PhD and such, but also, focusing on cannabis now. But the idea eventually would be, hopefully this is something that could be applicable to a lot of different plants, ideally.
Awesome. I'll let the other judges jump in.
So how much energy savings do you expect?
Well, we'd hope to be able to get, we still have to test it and do actual tests to see exactly.
Sure, but you must have some expectations, right?
Somewhere between 25 and 50%, I think it would be our hope. So we know that in the human systems, they're able to save it somewhere around that, but conservatively, I guess more like 20 to 30, but hopefully it could be more than that.
So is there anything in your approach that can have some IP, some intellectual property protection, patents?
I think it'd mostly be within the algorithm that we would develop to, of knowing what the plants need, and then being able to the connection of that to the energy source, and so I think that's the new piece that we're trying to bring to this, because yeah, I mean, some of the other pieces of like forecasting the grid that all exists already. But we would be really the connection to plants.
Okay, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
My fellow judges have asked really good questions, and I'm all set. I just want to say I appreciate the social impact and the responsibility of making donations to MCBA. I think they're a great organization, and to think forwardly like that, and I think it's a great idea.
Awesome. Well, judges, thank you so much. Sarah Beth, thank you for the presentation. Viewers, to let you know, the judges will now head into a separate Zoom to deliberate on the winner. And they should be back in about 20 minutes or so. And in the meantime, we're going to hear from some past winners, where they are now, as well as some incredible advocacy organizations. But we're going to start out by telling you a little bit more about Green Lion Partners. Mike and I are both 2010 grads of Questrom School of Business at BU. And about almost 6 years ago now, we decided that to get into the cannabis industry. GLP since then has developed into a hybrid operating and holdings company. We're involved with over a dozen companies in the space. In terms of how this competition started, I'd been working with BU Startup Accelerator pretty much since graduation. And, this was an idea that I had, Mike and I had just been talking about for quite some time as we started in the industry. And once Massachusetts voted in full adult use, we thought that was a good time to bring this to BU. And, fortunately, they were very receptive and willing to stand out in support of this industry. A big piece of this for us was that we wanted to show the BU community and academia in general that cannabis presents a true career opportunity for these students and for alums. And, every single year, the applications have gotten better and better. It's really been impressive. And, it's been an honor over these 4 years so far to work with these applicants and prep them for the finale. And, many of them we maintain ongoing communication with.
As Jeff said, we've loved working on this competition. It's something that is really one of our favorite parts of the year. And as a little bit of additional background, as we initially started our careers, we saw cannabis as a great business opportunity, but quickly, once we got in, we realized that the industry was built on the backs of advocates for legalization, as well as growing and succeeding while there were still nonviolent offenders in prison for the exact same plant that we were hoping to build a business around. We really saw how much work there really is to be done to end the drug war and its accompanying discrimination. And we feel that it's imperative that all companies that are involved in cannabis continue to fight for this type of change while also trying to build their businesses. As a result, we've tried to incorporate it into our various businesses, but also we thought it was really important that the companies that present here and through each of our competitions incorporate a social element in their business plan. And so, we really appreciate them and their participation and their creativity in how to incorporate that, as well as we really appreciate BU allowing us to use this as a platform for amazing organizations that are working towards these same goals. And as Jeff mentioned, we're now going to hear from a few of these organizations, as well as some of our past winners who have incorporated the social equity into their vision. Our first speaker will be Dr. Marion McNabb, who is the winner of our first actual competition. And through the Massachusetts Cannabis Center of Excellence, Marion has been creating a virtual resource of information and data through community and social equity focused studies. So Marion, please take it away and tell us a little bit about Massachusetts Cannabis Center of Excellence.
Yeah, thank you. And it's so good to be here 4 years later. And congratulations to all the finalists. Those are excellent presentations and ideas. And I would love to partner regardless of outcome in the future. So my name is Dr. Marion McNabb, and I'm the president of Cannabis Center of Excellence, which was the idea that was pitched 4 years ago at the BU competition. For the last 4 years, we were formerly known as Cannabis Community Care and Research Network, which was C3RN. And when we won the competition, we wanted to create a virtual resource for healthcare providers, policymakers, cannabis industry, academics, consumers, patients, and citizens to have a place where they can go access reliable data, information, and high quality resources related to cannabis for business, medical purposes, and just general connections. And so here we are now. I'm full swing ahead as the president of the COE. And that would not be without the help of Green Lion Partners, who have been good friends and mentors and still colleagues along the way. Kim Napoli has mentored us since the beginning. Through the competition, we got support from Vicente Cederberg pro bono to set up this nonprofit entity, have benefited so many times from winning this competition. Now run several cannabis research studies, 5 since we won, to be exact, together with UMass Dartmouth. Our latest one is on COVID-19 and medical cannabis and the impact on consumers and patients. We actually partner with Asia, who won last year, who we'll hear from next, on a partner on environmental sustainability and social justice. So thanks for all the work on that area. Love to continue to talk about that. And we've held over 20 events in Massachusetts over the last couple of years around the topics around opioid epidemic and medical cannabis and other important research findings that we've had. Last year, we were Cannabis Control Commission social equity training vendors, taught 9 courses for this first in the nation statewide program. This year, also involved in working with Rider University and university undergraduate students on a course related to social justice and legalization in New Jersey that just passed. So if you'd like to follow or join in or sign up to work in collaboration with us, we would love it. You can reach out to us at cannabiscenterofexcellence.org and on social media. And congratulations to make it to the stage, and good luck to everybody. Thanks for having me, Jeff and Mike, everybody.
Marion, thank you so much. Like I've said at pretty much every competition since yours, you are such a shining example as a winner of this competition, and you really embody, the reasons that we do this. So thank you so much for your work.
Thanks for doing this competition. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys.
Next up, from the Marijuana Policy Project, where I'm actually the vice chair of the board of directors. It's an incredible organization, the largest organization dedicated solely to changing cannabis laws, and has been incredibly successful over the years. And now I'm going to introduce you to Matt Simon, Senior Legislative Analyst at MPP, to tell you a little bit more about them.
Good evening. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak a little bit. So my name's Matt Simon, Senior Legislative Analyst for MPP, and I'm pleased to report that despite all the challenges associated with 2020, and there have been many, it has been another very successful year for cannabis legalization in the United States. A couple months ago, Vermont became the 11th state to pass a law to regulate adult use cannabis sales. And then in November, cannabis policy advocates pulled off a clean sweep of ballot initiatives. Adult use initiatives passed in Arizona, Montana, South Dakota, and New Jersey, bringing the total number of adult use states to 15. And medical cannabis initiatives passed in both Mississippi and South Dakota, bringing the number of medical cannabis states to 36. So despite all this progress at the state level, the prognosis at the federal level remains uncertain, pending the outcome of a couple of US Senate races, which I'm sure you've all heard at least something about. We're looking forward to seeing a House vote on the MORE Act expected next month, and we're hopeful that all of the progress we've been making for years at the state level will finally translate into meaningful federal reforms. Although again, how much we can expect from Congress will likely be determined somewhat by the makeup of the Senate. On to Massachusetts. Throughout the rollout of adult use cannabis in Massachusetts, there have been a few frustrations that I'm sure you're all aware of to some extent. Things seem to be really getting on a good track, and then COVID-19 hit earlier this year. The governor ordered a shutdown of adult use sales, which lasted 2 months. But despite this setback, by July of this year, there were more than 60 licensed retailers. They'd produced more than $750 million in sales since November of 2018, generating over $150 million in state and local tax revenues. So a lot of movement in a good direction. There's certainly been frustration around the implementation of the social equity program in Massachusetts. As a member of the drafting committee for that initiative, I was proud to see Massachusetts become the first state to include social equity provisions in a legalization law. But unfortunately, implementing that provision did not seem to be a top priority for many regulators or legislators until too far along in the process, and they're still trying to figure out how to get it right. But I think there's a really silver lining to all that, which is that today states all around the country are talking about cannabis legalization, and we're seeing justice and equity issues be at the forefront of that conversation in a way that they just really weren't 4 years ago. Many, if not all, most discussions of cannabis legalization, equity and justice issues are very much part of that conversation. And while no state has gotten it right yet, having those conversations take place at the beginning and throughout as part of the legalization conversation, as opposed to being an afterthought, is certainly much more likely to result in good policy. So our website is mpp.org, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and good luck to all the contestants.
Thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate that. Our next speaker will be Aja Atwood with Trella Technologies. Aja was our winner last year, and in the years since, it has been absolutely amazing to watch both her and her team's incredible work, continued success as they bring both automated and sustainable cultivation methods to the marketplace. Aja, if you'd like to give us a little background and tell us where you are.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike, Jeff, and everyone. Hello to those that I haven't met, and hello again to those that I probably already have. Yeah, this has been quite the year, and I'm sure no one is immune to how COVID's affected, progress when it comes to our companies, et cetera. But if it really wasn't for the cannabis competition that we won last year, we probably wouldn't have made it into 2020. It was a great win. It really helped to fuel us so that we could get through the next few months. And we also had the opportunity, because of Green Lion Partners, to go to MJ BizCon out in Las Vegas, which is where we really had a sense, we were able to get a sense for whether or not what we were trying to design actually had a place in the market, in the industry. And by going around and having the ability to walk all those floors and talk to all those people, we were able to really build up our confidence to know that, yes, this is something that there's a need for it, and there's not a lot of people thinking in this direction right now, but there's definitely a need, and we should put everything that we have behind it to keep going. And then COVID hit, and we were also in the beginning of the year tapped to go pitch at South by Southwest in Austin, and we're putting a lot of effort in trying to prepare ourselves to pitch there. And when COVID hit and the event was canceled, we really had to pivot, similar to other companies as well that have had to pivot over the years. So for us, the pivot was really in our manufacturing process. When you're developing a hardware technology, as a lot of you probably already know, there's a lot of capital upfront costs, upfront engineering costs that are associated with contract manufacturing. And it was such a huge hurdle. And when we were no longer able to find that kind of angel investment, and we weren't able to pitch, we had to think about what can we do with the resources that we currently have right now. And the resources that we have include our Start Engine campaign. That's how we raised some money. So we were able to use our Start Engine campaign to continue to raise funds. We raised over $200,000 this year, and that really helped to keep us moving. And we were able to go back to the drawing board a little bit, do some redesign, and get to the point where we were able to manufacture the units ourselves in-house on our own. So you can see a couple of the units behind me here right now. And right now, what we're doing is we're building the units that we're building right now are for our elite R&D partners. We have a licensed grower out in Illinois waiting for some, another commercial grower in Oklahoma, and some residential growers in Massachusetts. So we've really been working to get those ready and to get those built. And then the other exciting thing that we didn't have last year that we can talk about having this year is our units are now available for pre-order on our shop. So you should check out the website, trella.io, and you can check it out, get our product brochure, and even become an investor if you're interested. But yeah, this has been an awesome opportunity for us. We've been able to partner with Marianne as well, with C3RN, and to do some collaborative work, and looking forward to hopefully doing some collaboration with the winner this year as well. So thanks again, everybody, for your time and your attention, and keep tracking. 2020 is almost over.
Aja, thank you so much. It's incredible to see the progress that you've made, and Mike and I have really enjoyed working with you, and look forward to continuing that process. Next up, we've got Students for Sensible Drug Policy. It's one of our favorite organizations. We've been working with them for probably 5 years now or so, and they do incredible work. And here to tell you more about it is Interim Executive Director Rachel Wisner.
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you much, Jeff and Mike, for inviting me to speak. I'm really grateful to be here. Green Line Partners are among SSTP's strongest supporters, and we are so grateful for our partnership. Also, I'd like to congratulate the finalists in this competition and wish you good luck. So a little bit about SSTP is we're the largest youth-led international grassroots organization with the mission to end the war on drugs. We train, educate, and mobilize young people to reform drug policy on their campuses, in their communities, on the state and national levels. We're unique in that we're both a youth leadership development organization and a drug policy reform organization. Over the last 20 years, we've been providing grassroots support for marijuana policy reform in every U.S. state, nearly every U.S. state that has legalized cannabis for medical and adult use. And we've been instrumental in 911 Good Samaritan and medical amnesty policies on campuses all across the United States. We've also launched national campaigns such as the legalization of hemp and cannabis for industrial and health purposes in Ghana. Many of our alumni are leaders in the cannabis industry and in government. Most notably in Massachusetts, the Commissioner of Cannabis Control Commission is an SSCP alumna. So while this past election was a huge win for drug policy reform, with medical and adult use marijuana legalization initiatives passing in every state where they were on the ballot, and most notably Oregon decriminalizing simple possession of all drugs and expanding access and funding for substance use treatment, the work really is not over. Marijuana is still illegal at the federal level. Human beings are still locked in jail for using or selling marijuana, while it is legal in many places to use and sell marijuana. Arrests continue disproportionately targeting Black and Brown people, and people from marginalized communities face barriers to entry to the cannabis industry. Tens of thousands of people die from preventable drug overdoses each year. So we know that the war on drugs has been a complete failure, but at SSCP, we have the answers. We are fighting for drug policies based in public health, compassion, and human rights. Our members are providing drug education through our Just Say No, KNOW, drug education program, volunteering or working at harm reduction service providers, reforming cannabis policy, and working towards an equitable industry. We're demanding a complete end to racially based arrest disparities. We want sweeping access to harm reduction services everywhere in the US and abroad. The work is not over, and I invite you to join our movement and to support sensible drug policy reform. So, if you're a student, please check us out. Visit our website at ssdp.org. So thank you again for having me, and thank you so much, and good luck to all of the finalists in the competition.
Thank you so much, Rachel, and for SSDP for all the really important work that you guys do. We really appreciate it. Our next speaker is Mickey Belina, the Director of Criminal Justice Law and Policy for the Last Prisoner Project. The Last Prisoner Project is a team of industry leaders committed to freeing every prisoner from the unjust war on drugs. Mickey?
Hey, thanks guys. Mickey Belina, Director of Criminal Justice Law and Policy for LPP. So LPP is a relatively, very young advocacy organization that we consider ourselves a criminal justice reform organization that works at the intersection of criminal justice and cannabis policy. To just sort of flesh out the problem that we seek to address, a couple of folks before me, Rachel, really kind of teed it up nicely for us to put some numbers to the fact. Basically, war on drugs is something that's not over, it's long lasting, and the collateral consequences of it are still basically creating intergenerational trauma, while you've got companies really creating intergenerational wealth off of the same plant that led to such trauma and harm that we're still trying to figure out how to solve in Black and Brown communities. A lot of people think that just because we're on the verge of, sweeping legalization in the nation, that this is a battle that is soon to be won. when in fact, it's like we are just barely starting to address this issue. Marijuana arrests and are still outpace all violent or like arrests for all violent offenses combined. And majority of these arrests, almost like 90% of them, are for possession. And then when you take into account who's being arrested for this, for cannabis, Black people are still 3.64 times more likely to be arrested for cannabis possession than white folks. And so you can see how, even to this day, despite the fact that we're talking about a growing billion-dollar industry, cannabis is still the #1 tool that the legal system uses to pull Black and brown folks into this vicious cycle of incarceration. So at Last Prisoner Project, we take a multifaceted approach to trying to address the problem, because we recognize that, so I'll lay it out like this. We focus on clemency, which focuses on getting folks out from behind bars due to cannabis offenses. And then we focus on re-entry because, you know, the sentence served behind bars is really just the beginning of the punishment. The collateral consequences that follow incarceration are what keep people in recidivating and keep people from actually being able to rebuild and thrive in their lives. So we focus on offering re-entry services, primarily focusing on leveraging our partnerships with folks in the industry that have resources, opportunities, and expertise to support our re-entry folks trying to enter the industry, rebuild their lives, et cetera. And then lastly, we focus on legislative policy. So we get people out from behind bars, give them try and address their needs to re-enter and reintegrate into society. But then we still have to push to change legislation and change the legal barriers that are still preventing folks from actually rebuilding and doing more than just surviving. And we don't do that alone. We focus on leveraging partners with community organizations that are working with directly impacted folks on the ground. We work with organizations like MPP and Drug Policy Alliance, folks that have tenure in this policy realm. And so, yeah, it's, you know, we're here to build with industry partners, with community folks. Everybody has a role to play in this fight. And the best way to get in touch with us if you're interested in learning more, whether it's to volunteer, to partner if you're a dispensary or a company, or another advocacy organization looking to coalition build, you can visit our website at lastprisonerproject.org. And that's really the best place to find out sort of what we're doing, learn some of the stories of our constituents. And, you know, if you don't know what your role is in the fight against the war on drugs and its continuing effects, reach out. You know, we love to have these conversations and figure out ways that we can all build together. So thank you guys for giving LPP a platform tonight. And, you know, I'll say that I was really, really appreciative to see how social impact was really integrated into almost every presentation today. Like that really gives me hope, because I mean, I'll end after this, but I used to do, I was in Boston for 6 years and did street and gang violence work there, helping the guys that were most impacted by street violence try and rebuild their lives and, you know, find a pathway out. And despite that, when these guys were doing they were doing all the right work, they would be getting pulled back into the system because of small amounts of cannabis, because they were on probation or they were on community supervision. And this was during when people were celebrating legalization in Massachusetts. And I saw and hurt firsthand, seeing how legalization really just meant legalization for, I mean, to be real, privileged white folks. It didn't really mean that for the communities in Dorchester and Roxbury or Mattapan. And so it's beautiful to see these innovative companies coming out of BU talking about how, you know, social impact should really be the guiding lens, not an afterthought. So thank you for letting us be a part of this. And I was really, you know, felt blessed to be able to be a part of this event tonight. So thank you guys.
Mickey, thank you so much for that powerful and meaningful message, something that everyone watching right now really needs to understand and take account of. You know, there's people in jail for this plant, and we have a lot of work to do to get them out. So, you know, thank you so much for the incredible work. And to bring things back to the competition, the judges have made a decision, and they're back with us. So before we announce the winner, we'll let the judges say a few words about the teams, and then Mike and I will come back and tell you the winner. Judges?
Well, I guess somebody has to start, right?
Right.
Well, thank you very much to all teams. As I said, I think it's the 4th time that I'm doing this. And it is really very educational for me. It's interesting. You all have put in a lot of work. And yeah, it was good stuff again. So we randomly picked who is talking about which of the participants. And I ended up picking Eroth. So the big risk of Eroth obviously is, does this thing actually work as well as everybody hopes that it will work? That's a risk, but it is really impossible to evaluate that risk before you actually tested it in the field and how well does it go. If it does go, I think it has huge potential because every percentage reduction that needs to be sent to testing labs, any illnesses, any other stuff that is going on with the plants, if you can catch them earlier, it makes a huge economic impact. So if it goes, it's gonna be fantastic. My advice is, and maybe you have already done that, start talking with various IP attorneys. How much of that stuff can you legally protect? Because there is intellectual property in your approach. I'm sure, I'm not an attorney, but I'm pretty sure that there's something that can be patented. And I think that would add a lot of value to your company. Again, if it works, but we all hope that it does. So good luck.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Kim or Jamie, if one of you wants to go next.
Oh yeah, I'll jump in. I had the privilege to speak about two companies since there was an odd one out. So Sarah Beth and team, wherever you are, Climate Smart. I love the concept. I'm extremely passionate about sustainability in this industry. You have a very talented team. I mean, your bios speak amazingly about the growth and potential of what you guys can do. I'm supposed to give some feedback as well, just some critiques as someone who's an owner operator, really focusing on the revenue stream, just as someone who has actually sought investment in the open market around cannabis specifically. You might want to think about where your revenues will come from long term. And as well as that, sustainability around growth too. So what is going to drive the cultivator to really utilize your products? But again, I think it's an amazing concept. The other company I was speaking about too was GreenShare. I also too love this company as well in terms of the economical empowerment piece. I think that there's a great opportunity in new emerging markets specifically because a lot of what we're seeing on the legislative side is really going to drive economical empowerment applicants to be put first, as we've seen in states currently. And then some critiques to think about. I really think that there might be an opportunity just specifically focusing on regulations and ordinances around locations. Just specifically, there's not a huge coverage around a well-needed asset in terms of a lot of us owner operators trying to understand logistics of where we can zone facilities. So I see that as something too to take an opportunity with. And those were the two that I had. Thanks.
Thank you for that.
All right, I get Bud Risk. So like all the rest, this was a great pitch. Thank you guys for submitting. I think it's a practical service. We can't deny that insurance is a necessity in any industry or any walk of life, but not only is a necessity just in general and a good idea, it's actually a regulatory requirement in most, if not every state you go to. So to have an operation that is specifically focused towards the cannabis industry, I think is a great idea. And I definitely appreciate that commitment to the cannabis industry. In terms of corporate social responsibility, I think it's really great to see what I consider an organic effort to step outside of what is your core business and support social equity. I think in terms of growth and what the future holds for you, continue to explore that area and figure out how do we diversify our team as you move across the country. How do you engage newer communities that you are not currently seated in? how do you lift up those disproportionately impacted communities, and how do you really reach out and create more partnerships that are going to benefit the communities and the plan and the industry overall. Again, thanks for the entry. It was great to hear you guys.
Thank you, judges, so much for your insight. As always, we really appreciate your participation in this competition. Without you guys, we would have to be impartial judges, and we like so much more to be involved with the entrepreneurs. And I know that winner is slide has been up for a while, but I'm going to draw the suspense out a little bit more and just thank those all 4 finalists. Really did an amazing job. It's been a lot of fun working with everybody over these past few weeks, and regardless of who wins here, we do want to continue to help and stay in contact wherever possible. So thank you to the finalists as well. We'd like to thank Jerry, Lou, Aaliyah, and the entire Innovate at BU team for all their help and support through these last 4 years. This is, as I mentioned, such a fun event for us, and without your support and promotion, and we really wouldn't be able to have the opportunity to have a BU network in cannabis. So thank you. And now, finally, it is time to announce the winner. Those of you who are with us last year know how much I love big checks. And so I'm very disappointed that 2020 took that away from me and from us. Although obviously there's a lot more things that have, more important things that have been taken away, but I wish I could be handing a big check here. We'd like to congratulate this year's winner, Christopher with eRoth. So thank you to everybody, and Christopher, congratulations. If you'd like to say a few words, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super humbled and excited. The judges, I appreciate all the feedback. Thank you for taking the time. And also, I want to thank the other competitors. I was really humbled to be in such great company with other entrepreneurs in this space. So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christopher. Congratulations. This, as always, this is a great event, and we're looking forward to next year. Now I'm just going to bring back Jerry Fine from Innovate BU to give some final words.
Thank you, Jeff. One of the problems with Zoom really is that you can't have applause really going well, but I really just want to applaud all the contestants this year. I thought it was a great competition. I assure you the judges had a hard time making their call and really did a great job. And finally, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Jeff and Mike for their enthusiasm and their support for this competition. We're already thinking about next year, guys. And I want to thank all of you for watching tonight. Thanks so much.